Welcome, everybody. I'm Steve Lentini, the host for the podcast, Different Thinking for Different Times. And I have a guest today. My thought is you're going to love this guest. You're going to love Paul Salter. I'll give you just a thumbnail. Paul Salter calls his website Unstuck Your Mindset. Is that right? Did I remember it properly?
There's an updated one now, but we'll put that in the show notes.
Okay. Well, why don't you share it right now?
Yeah, it's the golfhypnotherapist.com.
The golfhypnotherapist.com. Now, the unstuckyourmindset.com is still open, right? Still live?
It's very outdated. It's not outdated. The place to go.
Okay. All right. Well, golf, you could probably help a lot of people, especially me. But we're going to talk about other things. So with that, welcome, everybody. Again, this is Paul Salter, and we're going to get right into it because this is about him. It's not about me. This is 7 seasons, by the way, everybody, and this will be, I think, episode 4 or 5 this year. But so, Paul, tell us about yourself. Where were you born? You don't have to say when you were born, and how you got into this work, because you're all going to be fascinated, by the way, about what he's about to share. So go ahead.
Yes. Well, thank you for having me, Steve. It's a pleasure. And I am a mindset and performance coach, as well as a credentialed hypnotherapist. And my superpower is helping high performers get unstuck out of their own way so they can unlock their potential. And specifically, it's using hypnosis to uncover and ultimately unlearn the destructive mindset programs that keep them stuck in patterns of toxic thinking, feeling, believing, and behaving that hold them back from achieving their potential. And my journey is quite unique. There's a few zigs and zags, but the last 17 years, I have been coaching a variety of different high performers. And the early part of my coaching career was as a sports dietitian, working at the collegiate, professional, and Olympic level, helping athletes maximize not only their body composition, but their performance. And what I observed very closely during this period is that for the most part, everybody I spoke with and worked with knew what to do from a nutrition perspective. And if they didn't, either myself or Google could quickly fill those nutrition knowledge gaps. So the observation of how to stand out and leave the biggest impact possible on my clients and athletes was really starting to focus on both their heart space and their head space, really beginning to identify what were the beliefs, the patterns of thinking and behaving that were holding them back from executing on the knowledge they have. We fast forward about 10 years. I pivot out of the athletic world. I focus on sustainable weight loss from the inside out, specifically working with men and women who were stuck in that yo-yo dieting cycle. And then, Steve, I come to a fork in the road because I'm loving my coaching business. Yet I've also got this irrepressible passion for the game of poker, and the whispers are growing louder, the temptation growing stronger. So I reached a moment where it was really an honest conversation. Am I going to continue to dream about playing poker professionally, or am I just going to do it? So taking my own advice as the coach that I am, I went all in on playing poker professionally. And about 6 months into that journey, I felt I was doing all of the right things. I'm studying, I'm working hard, I've got a coach, and it still felt like I was lighting money on fire. Not yet ready to quit. I had one last throw everything at the wall and hope something stick approach. I asked for help. And this time in a different domain, I asked for help from another mindset and performance coach. She happened to be a credentialed hypnotherapist. I had zero experience with hypnosis at that point, and in a very short amount of time, I suddenly found myself playing at significantly higher stakes, earning significantly more money on the poker table. Yet, even more indescribably incredible was the impact she had on me as an individual, a leader, a coach in my coaching business as well. And it was so impactful. I had this gut feeling it was the natural evolution of my own coaching practice. So I walked away from poker. I started phasing out my nutrition clients, doubling down on the mindset coaching I was doing, attained my credential as a hypnotherapist, and then made the commitment to surround myself with hypnotherapists and mindset coaches who were far more experienced and educated than I was, so I could learn and be a sponge. And I haven't looked back since, just continued to hit the ground running.
That's great. And, the fascinating thing about your journey is I'm sure you've seen different levels of effect on yourself and then now others. So what's the impact been on others now that you're full-time hypnotherapy and mindset coaching? What are some of the things that are important for people to hear?
Well, candidly, life-changing, because my priority as a coach is helping you identify what results are most important to you and then getting them, achieving them, fulfilling them, experiencing them. So in that realm, the results run the gamut from A to Z. Is it letting go of and unlearning performance anxiety? Is it further cultivating and strengthening confidence? Is it overcoming imposter syndrome, getting out of the way of toxic fears of failure, success, judgment, finding safety, even excitement, standing out so you can achieve that next levels of success? It's so tailored to the individual, but it all comes back to being true and authentic to who you are and living the life you were destined and desire to live.
And what's a hypnotherapy experience like? Is there 41 years of sessions? I know people have thoughts in their mind about, well, this is like going to a therapist, and I've been going to my therapist since I was 21 and now I'm 51. So, and by the way, I met a guy, that's a real story. I met a guy who actually was in therapy, and at some point he realized he had to get therapy to get out of the therapy.
I'm not surprised. And I'll share some interesting research on that too. But to backtrack,
yeah,
as you kind of alluded to, Steve, there definitely, you're listening right now and you hear hypnosis. You might think cluck like a chicken. You might think I'm going to put a pocket watch in front of you. You might think back to that show you saw on a cruise ship, your own high school graduation. None of that is remotely similar to the hypnosis that we are talking about. So I always like to lead with what hypnosis is not. It's not magic. It's not mind control. It's not brainwashing. It's actually just a word used to describe the type of brain waves you're producing in any given moment, which are theta brain waves. And those theta brain waves are representative of a state of deep relaxation. Between falling asleep and light relaxation, that sweet spot is hypnosis. It's a natural state of mind. You, me, everyone listening has already been in hypnosis multiple times today, because it's the same state you experience the moment you transition from sleeping to waking. When you're caught up in one of Steve's fantastic books, immersed in one of your favorite TV shows, or you find that flow state on the golf course at work. All of those are periods of hypnosis. So again, this is me echoing, it's familiar, it's safe, it's natural. Now, Steve, where the so-called magic happens though is twofold. Number one, when we get into that hypnotic state intentionally, we're able to quiet the harsh inner critic within all of us. Second,
and I point out that's what I call the acorn brain.
Yeah.
I will also say, yes, and I recommend people name it. And the name I give to my voice is, besides the acorn brain, I call it the little fucker.
I love that. I love that. So we quiet that. We sidestep all of that noise and negativity. And number two, we connect directly with your subconscious mind. Now, 95% of what you and I do every single day is influenced by our subconscious mind. Our subconscious is home to our memories, emotions, beliefs, and habits. And all of those results I shared earlier, the letting go of performance anxiety, or the struggles of doubt, insecurity, imposter syndrome, those are all learned limiting beliefs and sabotaging behaviors, which means they can be unlearned. So hypnosis allows us to uncover the origin of when, why, and how you learned, for example, this performance anxiety, which in and of itself provides an opportunity for a powerful perspective shift. Even more, it creates an opportunity to do the work necessary to unlearn those beliefs and feeling states, and the immediate byproduct of that energy. And with that energy, suddenly you can do what it is you already know you need to be doing to achieve your goal. And I'm going to share one more thing and bring it back to you, Steve. You mentioned, people stuck in therapy for 10, 20, 30 years. Well, there's a really neat research review done, a big meta-analysis that reviewed hundreds of studies. Coincidentally, it was actually published more than 50 years ago. It just got buried, but it looked at the impact of traditional therapy, talk therapy, versus hypnotherapy. And what it found was that on average, participants participating in talk therapy experienced a 38% positive impact. Nothing to write home about, to say the least. Even more importantly, this 38% positive impact was experienced after an average of 600 sessions, which is 10 plus years of weekly therapy. Talk about a commitment financially, emotionally, time-wise, to say the least, whereas participants in the hypnotherapy group experienced a positive impact of 93%. That's an A- last time I checked, significantly better. Second, though, after an average of 6 sessions. So it just goes to highlight, this is not a promise 6 sessions and, anything you want to overcome, you're suddenly overcome it, but it highlights just how fast and effective hypnosis is because it works at the subconscious level.
So would you say 6 sessions build a foundation for people?
I think foundation is a great word. However, what I would add is equally, if not more important, is, the hypnosis is going to help you start to make those foundational changes. Equally important is the integration of the changes, having the support, the accountability, and the follow through to really ensure that they stick is essential. You don't just go, for example, you have your first coaching experience and you do hypnosis and everything falls into place and life is happily ever after. You got to integrate, you got to apply the knowledge and the awareness, and that rate of return is exponentially faster than traditional talk therapy.
Yeah. Well, R.J. Spina talks about, one of his books is about super consciousness. I'm doing some research about the higher frequency energy versus the lower frequency energy, because we can feel it. We can feel when we're around someone who's stuck in lower frequency energy, and we can feel it when we're doing things that give us higher frequency energy or lower. We can feel it either way. And his idea is to choose, because you now recognize the difference between higher frequency energy and lower frequency energy. Now, you mentioned in the hypnotherapy, what you were talking about is energy. So does that help people consciously choose higher frequency energy?
It absolutely can. So let me explain it like this. I believe the Latin derivative of the word emotion is literally energy in motion. So let's pick on men for a moment. Right. Stereotypically, men are emotionally constipated. They suppress, repress, avoid, numb, escape to the nth degree. Really what's happening is it's energetically costly to hold on to all of these stuck, repressed emotions, anger, guilt, shame, grief, whatever it may be. So by digging in, I like to use the analogy even further, but when we dig in, it's like we're trying to climb a summit. And at the top of that mountain is the best version of ourselves, pure self-actualization. But there's a dense fog, and you can't even see where you're going. And you don't even know how to start. So you flail, you flounder, you're stuck. That dense fog is analogous to just this emotional cloudiness that we're experiencing when we don't deal with our emotions. So by digging in and understanding why you're carrying the anger, the grief, the shame, and doing the work to let go of it, it's like literally dropping a backpack full of rocks off the mountain, the clouds part, and now you can run to the freaking top of that mountain because you have the energy, you've let go of what you've been carrying.
You probably heard the story of the 2 Buddha students, right? That were wondering about how to get to where the Buddha was. And he said, well, the first thing you have to do is gather stones of different sizes and put them in a sack. And they're different sizes based on little stones for smaller problems, big stones for bigger problems, and large rocks for some of the large things you're carrying. He said, so that's first. And then what I want you both to do is race up the mountain, and whoever gets to the top first. So the Buddha made his way to the top because he wasn't collecting rocks. And halfway up, one of the students just sped by the other and got to the top. And the other guy was struggling, and he sweat, and he makes it finally to the top. And he said, how did you do that? You ran by me. He said, halfway up, I decided I better cut a hole in the bag and drop these rocks, which is a great analogy for what you're talking about. So you experience people that come to you and they've got varying degrees of energetic resistance and emotional resistance, energy and motion, and they're carrying around these big rocks, so to speak, and it's dragging them down.
Bingo. And what I really think is important for listeners to hear is these are people who on paper look incredibly successful. They're high achievers. They're doing many great things. Yet there's also that deep, quiet whisper in the middle of the night that tells them they're capable of more, or they're just so close to running on empty, flirting with burnout every single day. And when they finally find the courage within to ask for help, that light bulb moment, they come back online and they're able to address, confront, and overcome what's been holding them back or slowing them down. And that's how they get to that next level of fulfillment, success, peace.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that in my experience anyway, the thing is most people believe they're thinking and they hang tightly onto it. In fact, I've heard people over the years complain about something I said and it's who I am, Steve, get over it. And then gently I would say, well, it's who you're choosing to be, by the way.
You don't have to be.
Don't give up your power, right? And I think most people, many people anyway, the reason they're in the victim story and willing to tell everybody what's happening to them is that they're afraid of their power to create. And I like to say, if you can create a mess like that, well, guess what? You got the power to also create what you want. It takes some tweaking. And I don't have any hypnosis experience. And when I tell people they have to prove it to themselves and give them some ideas about things they can try, it's more challenging without the hypnosis.
It certainly can be. And that's why I said hypnosis needs the complementary action. It absolutely does. But again, if we come back to, the root of what I do doesn't help my clients fill knowledge gaps. It's never a lack of knowledge problem. It's I know what to do and I can't freaking do it. Why? Yeah. So it's that invisible resistance that we have to confront and attack. And it needs to be done at the subconscious level. Because as you alluded to, all of these thoughts, which take on a life of their own and become beliefs, well, guess what? 95% of your beliefs were embedded and integrated before the age of 7. You didn't choose your beliefs, but you are the only one who can work to unlearn them or upgrade them.
Yeah. Neuro researchers are saying up until the age of 35, if you don't do any work on yourself after that, they can predict how your life will turn out because of what you're pointing out, that we're programmed by all the events that have happened and our responses emotionally, that the brain, the subconscious remembers all of those responses. And it's like, hey, relax, Steve, we got this. You give this person a piece of your mind and you let them know how freaking angry you are. And you let them know. And if I don't change that thought, my automatic thought that leads to an automatic response typically is not the healthiest choice.
Yeah, I'm going to nitpick for a moment. This is something my clients and podcast listeners hear me say all the time. You sum that up beautifully. I would sub one word. I would say we're programmed with reactions, that unconscious autopilot, automatic. And the reason I nitpick the word is because our goal is to shift from unconscious reaction, that autopilot, to conscious response.
Yeah.
And the only difference,
I agree,
aside from the subtlety of my nitpicking of word choice, is a moment of pause. That pause, however, is the powerful opportunity to come back online and to choose different. You want a different outcome, you have to choose, think, believe, feel, and do different. That pause creates an opportunity. And if you can learn to intentionally pause, utilizing strategies as your breath or other practices, you get a moment to choose different. You come back to that fork in the road I mentioned earlier, and you can keep going down the same freaking path and react, yell, 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 or you can take a breath and proceed differently.
Yeah. Make a new respond instead of react, right? Make a new choice. So there's something interesting too to add to that. The automatic thought that leads to an automatic response is remembered by the subconscious very much like driving, right? When we're young and we get into our teens and then our early adults, we're learning emotional responses. We're learning things, right? The brain remembers where the brain has an advantage, it remembers every place we fell, every lack of judgment, every so-called failure, where it perceives it as a failure because we said, oh shit, I failed. So we put that in there. And once the brain has that, it's very challenging to reprogram it. Dr. James Doty wrote Mind Magic. And he said, think of the brain this way, the subconscious. Whatever, he said, think of it as a file system and a bloodhound. And that whatever you put in the file system, the bloodhound goes, oh, there it is. You got the book. Whatever. I usually buy the book and listen on Audible because this brain probably needs hypnosis to open up easier. So just fascinating, right? The bloodhound, he said, goes looking for evidence despite any evidence to the contrary.
Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah.
And that's the uphill battle we all face. Yet again, I often come back to this quote, once you accept how hard the challenge is, in a weird, sick, twisted way, it becomes easier because now you're better prepared. Expectations are more aligned with reality. You gain clarity on what the most effective action steps are to take, and you can do the right work to feel and be the best version of yourself.
Well, and maybe people can avoid the 2x4 whack that I got from life when I was 50. I mean, literally, it was life. Giving me a gift, which is another thing I think, at least for the people that when I have conversations with people, is that how are they looking at life? Is it happening to them or happening for them? Is it a gift? And for the people that it's happening to them, and of course, I tell people, tell me your story, and I can hear the ones, you can hear the ones that are happening, where life is happening to them because they have the description. Well, Mary did this to me, and then Sam did this to me, and the last boss did that, and then, my partner did this, and yada, yada. They've given up their power. And that's where there's a big key, I think, to begin, for me anyway, is to, what's the gift in this? This is a gift, that life is actually for us, as Einstein said. That was one of the biggest questions, right? Is if you think that life is for you or not. I'm paraphrasing because he spent a little more time describing that. But
just a little.
Yeah, just a little. So do you notice there's a difference when people approach your work that have that basic mindset that, hey, I know life is a gift and things aren't working right now, and I just want to discover the gift. I want to figure out what I'm missing. Because that could define me right now, by the way.
It's almost I would say it's a prerequisite. To be called to this type of work, you have some foundation of self-development, personal development work already under your belt. You have this deep inner knowing that you're either meant for more, capable for more, destined for more. You may have even gone as far as tried doing the journey alone, trying other support sources for help, coaching, accountability, yet either it hasn't worked or you're just still frustrated, plateaued, stagnant with where you are. And there's a unique blend of openness, readiness, and vulnerability that usually starts to kind of put this type of work on your radar. And you get this, I always say, the universe gives you signs that you're on the right path. And if I happen to show up on your path, it typically means you've already done some good work. You're ready for that next up-leveling experience.
Yeah. Yeah. There's truly no coincidences. It's God's way of staying anonymous. It's all somehow part of the plan.
Yeah.
And I think that the day that I left this world and went to the other side, I had a gift of being part of everything and nothing. That was the first impression, along with the immense light, mercy, grace, love. And when we get back in our body, by the way, that's the other thing. This little voice wasn't there, right? Which has me every night saying, thy will be done, Lord. It's okay there. Okay, if I come back here, it don't matter, because that voice doesn't go. And we finally are one with the now. I call it the now on steroids. There's no choice to be in the now when you're on the other side, right? That's our difficulty, as so many sages like Eckhart Tolle or Deepak Chopra or many others over the ages. So when you think of hypnotherapy and your coaching, what gets them into that zone? Would it just be hypnotherapy, or is there other work?
So hypnosis in and of itself is almost another way that's representative of the zone. We think flow state, we think that
Right.
peak performance state athletes need to be in, just like entrepreneurs, executives, and business owners need to be in when they're closing deals, doing the deep work, writing, creative, etc. But hypnosis, again, when we quiet that harsh inner critic, that judgmental voice in all of us, it's almost as if, and this is a bit of an analogy here, coming back to early childhood when everything was possible. You could be the astronaut, the president, the professional basketball player. And since nothing is off limits, you're just freeness, the abundance of energy, excitement, all comes together as one. And that is just a powerful state to be in. And hypnosis, the best part that we haven't yet discussed is hypnosis is a skill. So when you learn self-hypnosis or when you're working with a credentialed hypnotherapist consistently, the more you do it, not only does it take less time to get into hypnosis, you actually go deeper. And if you're someone who takes it the extra step to practice self-hypnosis, you can get into that very deep state of relaxation, connecting with your subconscious, bringing in all of the elements and invoking your senses, visualization to really create your dream life in your mind. And through continuous action, watch it unfold in your reality as you move forward.
Mm-hmm. Well, and the beauty of that is eventually people start to see the proof that their work, they're proving it to themselves with your help, right? Then they realize how important it is. So I used to have daydreams where I'd be on a train and then I'd see another train coming the other way with me on it. And so I knew when I was giving up when I was thinking about giving up the license for the National Sales Training Program, I knew that was life flashing before me. You got to get on this other train. You're heading in the wrong direction. And I saw myself on that other train, very happy, relaxed. I mean, it was quick, right? It was as fast as a train would go by in real life. And there I was sitting on it. And that's when I decided, well, I've got to give up this license. And then life made it easy literally out of work, 6 months, and in the hospital 100 days before that, 60 days straight, and 40 out of the next 60, then out of work 6 months. When you're not training, life made it very easy to decide something new because it felt like I'd have to start up that license all over again after 6 months of nothing. Fascinating, right? That now do you think hypnotherapy helps them tune into that quicker, faster, easier? They get to see. And did that sound like a hypnotic state that all of a sudden I'd see myself on a train and see myself coming the other way? Was I somehow
more... you were hooked up to brain scanners, we'd be seeing a plethora of alpha and likely theta waves being produced as well in that state. And, to come back to the question at hand here, like, anyone who's called to this type of work, anyone who's just called to self-development is really looking for awareness and looking to, I often joke, I'm really dehypnotizing you from the bullshit, the beliefs, the nonsense society, your parents, and your environment is impressed upon you. It's all about returning to who you are, that core of authenticity and truth. And the closer you get to that, not only does awareness continue to be cultivated and strengthened, but it's almost as if, as you mentioned earlier, you're vibrating at different frequency, and you start to only see, feel, and experience others and opportunities at those same frequencies or those same levels of life. And then the framework I often share is you just start playing a different game. And when you recognize that, you see the players in your game, you see the players at different levels of the game, and there's an appreciation and a renewed sense of energy to keep playing your game.
Yeah, that kind of describes where I was and what I was going through, that I was getting ready to play a new game.
That makes sense. Yeah.
It wasn't without its challenges.
No, I can imagine.
Yeah, I haven't found nirvana except on the day that I got a peek at what awaits us. And if we're here, then we've got work to do. Really. If we're here, we've got work to do. The other side, there's nothing to do. It's perfection. At least in my experience. I don't try to convince anybody of anything, because although I was going to be a priest until I met Sophie on the high school bus, I knew a Catholic priest wasn't going to work. What I follow today, and I've studied Kabbalah and all the faiths, all the Abrahamic faiths. Let's put it that way. That way I don't have to sound like I'm favoring one or the other. I've studied them all, which includes the Vedic traditions. I didn't realize we're rooted in the Abrahamic faiths, the Abrahamic traditions. I've found the God of Spinoza, which was written in the 1600s by Baruch Spinoza, eventually changed his name to Benedict. And Einstein, when asked, what forms your idea of God, he would answer it two ways. The first way he'd answer it is the superior reasoning power that created this unimaginable universe forms my idea of God. The other way he would answer it, I don't know why he chose the other one from time to time. He would answer it this way: go read the God of Spinoza. Maybe he was in a bad mood and he didn't want to explain, or he was busy, he was rushed, right? I can picture that. Go read the God of Spinoza. And that's how he would leave it. When I read the God of Spinoza, I was like, that's where I was. So I'm encouraging people to go read the God of Spinoza. I'm not encouraging people to change their beliefs or faiths or anything, but to read it. And it's actually great for somebody to read who's really burdened by a lot of thoughts about their own failures and shortcomings. So the God of Spinoza. All right, how can people reach you, Paul, about this work? And that includes me. I'm going to reach out to you. I need some of your work. I'm going to give a tremendous foundational testimony, because I'll tell my story over and over again, because I can see, and I encourage people to ask for help. I noticed you said that over and over again, that things changed for you when you realized you had to ask for help.
Yeah.
So go ahead, tell us how we can find
results. Yeah, happily.
Would you say? I'm sorry. Say it again. I'll edit this.
Yeah, asking for help accelerates results. I mean,
accelerates results.
I've had coaches and mentors multiple at a time for the past 20 years now, and my life looks a hell of a lot different than I could even have imagined as a result.
Yeah.
So, and I appreciate you asking. The best place to connect with me, if you want to learn more about me, what I do, what mindset and performance coaching is, all of the science of hypnosis, the golfhypnotherapist.com is the best place to start. I work with more than just golfers. That just happens to be a niche demographic I really enjoy working with. But a lot of information is there. I also have a podcast that is called the Scratch Golfers Mindset Podcast. It's a personal development podcast disguised as a golf mindset podcast. So again, you'd have to be a golfer to find immense value. Instagram at Paul Salter Coaching is always a safe bet.
At Paul Salter Coaching.
Bingo.
Okay. And what is the best email?
It would be Paul at unstuckyourselfmindset.com.
Okay. Unstuck Yourself Mindset. That's Paul at Unstuck Yourself Mindset. And the show notes for everybody as well. And I'm going to put this will be on YouTube. It'll be on Twitter. There'll be a link posted to all of it. It'll certainly be on Spotify, Apple, and all the other podcasts that I'm registered for, which, by the way, the other day I realized it might only been one person, but 46 different countries. All right. So tell people again how to reach you.
Yes. Best way to reach me, Paul at unstuckyourselfmindset.com via email, the Golf Hypnotherapist for more about me, my work, client results, the Scratch Golfers Mindset Podcast, and at Paul Salter Coaching on Instagram.
At Paul Salter Coaching on Instagram. All right. I'm going to check all that stuff out. And I urge you all, check it out. And ask for help. When I think about what Paul just said and gave us all the little nuggets, there's little nuggets, but for people to find gold, by the way, you've got to invest millions and go get yourself a big shaker deck, all kinds of heavy equipment. I mean, you can buy a little what they call a sluice run in a backpack on Amazon, and you might spend hours and hours and hours and find a flake of gold in a stream. If you're going to get serious about anything, you really need to make the investment and the commitment. That's what I'm comparing this to, right? If you really want to dig into changing your mind and this acorn brain, this little thinker that for many people it's incessant, 24 hours a day, it takes a big commitment. And while it won't be millions of dollars and you won't have to go find a big shaker deck somewhere and ukes and all kinds of heavy steam shovels, this is simple enough work that if you ask for help, you'll find it. And Paul is a place to go. He's a resource. The acorn, people ask me why I use the acorn, because it's stationed in the brain where the amygdala is, which looks more like a walnut. Now, I understand that, but I use the acorn because the acorn, people look at it and know more easily that it turns into an oak tree, that the potential is there. And this, to become an oak tree, it has to get crushed, broken open, stomped into the ground, stay in the dark for a while, and hopefully gets watered, right? So it gets some nutrients, and then it has to survive all the stages from there. Sprout, a deer might eat it. Now maybe it'll sprout again. 5 sprouts, well, then maybe 2 survive. And then it becomes a young sapling, and then eventually a young tree, and then a grand old oak eventually. There's a lot of work to becoming that and reaching that. Easier for the acorn, although the odds are stacked against it, which is why they produce millions and millions and millions and millions of acorns. For you and I, the odds are better if you ask for help. And it sounds like what Paul is doing would be a huge value and a way for you to convince yourself, because you've got to make the commitment to yourself to change. And if this has struck a chord today, reach out to Paul. It's going to make a difference. What I can tell you is, as long as I'm going to be here, I want to be the most productive and helpful person. I want to help others win and help others succeed. And that's what's in Paul's message. That's what he wants to do. That's his mission. And so anyway, I'm grateful that everybody tunes in and listens. I'm grateful for Paul, that the universe somehow, I got an email one day and said, hey, would you like to have Paul as a guest? And did all. So maybe you've all been hypnotized and you're on the way. You're on the journey to changing. Reach out to Paul to complete that. All right, everybody. Thank you.